You related to any of the Springets in Nevis?
You never know. Anything is possible in this time.
Okay. All right. How I work here on my show is the first few moments we're going to talk about you, where you were born and raised, and different things like that. So, Mr. Springer, where were you born and raised? You don't have to tell me your age.
All right. First of all, let me just say it's indeed a pleasure to be on this platform. I was born in St. Kitts and Nevis to my parents who are deceased. My father was born in Montserrat, the home of the late Jim Allen and the mighty Arrow.
Okay.
And you know the famous umpire from Montserrat who is still alive, Basil Morgan.
Yes.
And my mother was born in St. Lucia, the home of the Olympic champion Julian Alfred and the West Indies head team coach Darren Sammy. And like I said, I was born in St. Kitts and Nevis. And
how was growing up in how was growing up in St. Kitts and Nevis as a youngster?
Growing up in St. Kitts and Nevis, my parents, had me very grounded. My mother was a school teacher. My father worked at the St. Kitts Bottling Company Limited as an engineer for well over 50 years and growing. And so I grew up in a very small village, grew up eating whatever was on the plate and wearing what my parents could afford.
Yeah. So
that's how I learned to be grateful and appreciative towards life. So I give God thanks because during that time, I would have grown up just learning three sports or knowing three sports at the point in time. It would have been track and field, football, and cricket. And because my mother was also an avid sports fan, where she was very much involved in my life when it comes in terms of sports, my father just was into cricket. So there was some abundance, but I grew up in a village which really kind of held you at a very early age. To the day since I would have to consider to be one of my mentors. My late uncle Carl Brazier would have been another mentor for me. But in the village area, I grew up where one of my school colleagues, George Somerset, we call him Junie Mustang. I remember on the pasture, the village school pasture, we used to be racing goalpost to goalpost. I was Concord and he was Mustang. And so you remember those days, football, playing in the schoolyard.
yeah.
Everything you learned on the grammar school pasture. So
messing up your knee and your clothes that your mother pissed off that you come home dirty. Well, I don't know if you get dirty.
I'll give you a story. Your parents always tell you that you're supposed to stay home. And one afternoon, the curious boy that I was playing football in the grammar school, in the village school yard. They had a mango tree in the yard, put a tackle on me. And I used to play and the tree root of the mango tree. And I remember I fell mine by the name of Vernon onto the put a tackle on me. And the tree root of the mango in the yard. I fell and everybody in the village could have heard when I fell. It was like a root which was going in the yard. Everybody was around me because they realized everybody think that in the village my hand was broken. I fell. I went to the hospital. They took me to the hospital and everybody was around. By the time they got in contact with my mother who was working at the coffee, my hand was broken. So I went to the hospital. They took me to the hospital. By the time they got in contact with my mother who was working at the coffee shop or restaurant on a part-time job, when she got to the hospital, she said to me, I thought I told you to stay off of the grammar school pasture, but I guess you found your way there. So this is what is going to happen. You will sleep in the government clothes tonight, and I will come and check you out in the morning. So I can kind of remember that religiously.
Yeah, we all have those type of stories. When you say you hit the ground, you were in the tree. You weren't in the tree though.
No, yeah. The tree route was so far because we had to pass.
Yes, correct. Okay, just making sure. I thought.
The schoolyard.
Yes, no, I understand.
But we're going towards the cemetery's goal.
Yes.
And this guy was a left-hander, Ryan, left back, and he came across and he hit on me, and up to now I can still even remember that.
Ouch. Yeah. As a youngster, you mentioned about the various sports, the 3 different sports that you were playing. Did you favor any, or did you just enjoy playing?
Just enjoy playing. As a youth, it was pretty early. I ran for my school, played football and ran for my school, and I went to high school and really kind of sort of concentrated a little bit more on cricket and track and field. So all three, it was you just had to get involved in one. In fact, there was really no season. Even though sometimes people would say that there was season.
Yes.
You always was playing something either in the alley or on the sidewalk or wherever cricket was taking place, and you go on the pasture, you're playing football. So in those days, you didn't have the distractions. You didn't have any distractions. I remember we didn't have any electricity in our house. And so the neighbor who had this black and white TV, all of us used to just huddle up into that area. Some of us used to try and find a spot, either looking by the crevice of a door or trying to see if we can find a window. We did more reading in those days than anything else. But the world has evolved.
Correct.
For that.
Correct. Yeah, I know. Now my daughter doesn't even look at TV. She just on her iPad all the time. So I guess that's her television or way of utilizing her time. As you got older and went through your phase of high school, or what we call high school, I know it's a different term there, and you went to, what was next in your career path?
Well, next on your career path was, it's a very interesting story because I can remember all of us was playing cricket. And I played a lot of wind ball cricket. Played a lot of wind ball cricket in the village, played a lot of wind ball cricket in the park. And all of us was playing cricket. But I think I took it up to the point where I said, listen, all of us are playing, but nobody is coming to help us in any aspect. We're just playing. And so I, at an early age as a leader, decided I was going to get everybody up early in the morning, that we have to get fit. So I started out first as trying to get everybody fit. And so I used to go around and knock on everybody's door and tell the other guys, we're going to meet at Warner Park. We're going to run from the village to the park. Maybe get up like about 4:30, 4:45, get everybody to the park, and then, we finish to get back home to get ourselves organized. And so I now developed now as I was like the leader in the park now, trying to get everybody fit. And in trying to get everybody fit now, I ended up to be the guy now who was dealing with hitting the ball to get catches and high catches and low catches and working with the wicketkeeper and setting up the practices. And lo and behold, next thing I, moved from playing now to be the coach. And then Warner Park was an institution. And when I say institution, it was a university. You had so many characters in Warner Park that I was considered to be a park rat. So I learned almost all of my sports at an early age from in Warner Park. Even when you're going to Bastia Junior High School and then Bastia High School, and you got the time off. But I came up, it's a funny story because Luther Kelly, who I'm sure you knew, was a police officer. And so because you had so many activities taking place in the park, I was called the Young Hurricane, and they used to have a hurricane group, which was Luther Kelly, Mem Keynes, Sheldon Williams, and Sinclair Brown. And those guys used to line together. So at the end of practicing in the park, Luther Kelly being a policeman, used to go down to the Bastia police station. Days where I learned to play table tennis, learned to play domino, darts. And Luther Kelly always told my mother, don't worry about anything. I'm going to bring him home. But it didn't matter what time. So my mother knew that I was safe. When I went to the park, Luther Kelly would be bringing me home. It didn't matter what it was going to be. So I learned a lot of the sports through that concept. So me developing myself to become a coach, I was first handled by Hesketh Benjamin, who was one of the most successful managers, president of the Sinkers Cricket Association, was also a lawyer by profession, played for the Leeward Islands, played for the Combined Islands. And he kind of grabbed me very early because he saw something in me maybe that I didn't see myself. And I learned the ropes about the cricket and
when you never had something, you can't miss it. But then when you see something and you're like, wow, my park is nothing. When I was younger, I used to think my parks were nice. When I went to the States and see how green the grass is and how plush the area is, how clean the place is, I was like, how come we can't be like that? Did you ever run into issues at Warner Park that you felt should have been better upkept?
Well, Warner Park was massive. In fact, I think it would have been before it was developed for the World Cup in 2005, 2006 for the ICC Cricket World Cup that never came to the Caribbean. I would say that it was one of the biggest landscape in the Caribbean, because at one point in time you could have had 3 cricket matches. And to see that when they developed the ground and they changed the landscape for the World Cup, that you were almost like just having one cricket game. So I can remember, in the days that Warner Park was so big that they could have had maybe 2 cricket games going on at the same time and football. I mean, that's how massive it was, or maybe another small game taking place just further up by where the academy is. But Warner Park, in a nutshell, I think out of all of the governments who upgraded for the Cricket World Cup, I think the government of St. Kitts and Nevis maybe might have been the only government that you could say that maybe survived to an extent. Because when you look around and you look at the Antigua Recreation Ground, and you look at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, and you look at the massive wastes of space there, when you look at Grenada, when you look at St. Lucia, and when you look at some of the other venues that were developed for the Cricket World Cup in 2007, you see that we almost like we built white elephants. There's really no infrastructure. We built stadiums that, we're told that, we're going to have 10,000, 15,000 people. Since then, 18, 20 odd years on, you look and you see most of the cricketing nations like Cricket West Indies or maybe even CPL is struggling maybe even to fill those stadiums. So it's almost like we just built white elephants, we built concrete, but we really was long term by deciding that we were going to build infrastructure with an indoor facility. So all of these stadiums that we built for the Cricket World Cup, there's not one indoor net that a guy can go and knock. But you have all these big concrete stadiums and seats just there. How many times will we fill them out? I was just looking at the West Indies Under-19 England series in Grenada. And I find that somebody missed a trick, because the Grenada government has just made a huge investment in looking to promote cricket in Grenada. And I thought that would have been a perfect opportunity to get the primary school and high schoolers out to the cricket to witness West Indies playing against England. There were 50 over games. So, the children could have been there looking at the game. I think we missed an opportunity to market the sport, but that's another discussion on another night.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I was just looking at it that in the U.S. Virgin Islands, we have some of our stadiums ain't as big as the one at Warner Park for sure, because we can't play no 3 cricket games at the same time on any of our fields. But the fields that we have, I always looked at it that it should be better manicured, for children, but children don't really care what they play on. They just want to play. But when I went to the States and saw how beautiful some of these parks are, I just came from Atlanta with my stepdaughter. They were playing kickball, so I went to it, and they had 3 different baseball fields facing each other, something like what you're talking about with the cricket, how big this place was. And the grass was incredible. The lines for the baseball fields was incredible. The dugouts, every place was just clean. It was just such a wow aspect. I mean, I don't play ball anymore. I'm more of a fan. But just sitting down watching them play, I'd enjoy the atmosphere and know that St. Thomas, at least St. Thomas, I can't speak for St. Croix, the St. Thomas St. John parks are nowhere near as upkept as the one that I was at in Atlanta. So that's why when I was asking you how was Warner Park, just to assist me, but it sounds similar what you're talking about. We have a park that's called Emile Griffith that holds a lot of, nowhere near 10,000. I would say maybe 3 or 5, and it's not being utilized as well. So I could understand. I know they play a little bit of AA baseball there, but it's not utilized. Like you're saying that when you build these structures and you invest so much money, it should be a way that any sport, but then you run into, I'm not sure in St. Kitts Nevis, but I know in the U.S. Virgin Islands, they run into individuals like, oh no, Griffith is only for baseball. We don't want soccer. We don't want cricket. We don't want softball. So then they have, each field have their own reasons and rhyme for the situation. Little League is in one park. You have Senior League in another park. But in the U.S. Virgin Islands, we're having an issue with cricket. So they're looking to build one, talking in the same grounds like you mentioned of sports tourism. When you build those type of structures, like you're saying, you're hoping now, and when you mentioned back in 2007 with the hope of the cup coming and never showing up, their mentality is kind of the same thing. Like, oh yeah, we're going to build it so that they could have mentioned that you went to England. What caused you to go to England to make to get professional? Well, you were professional before, but you said you went to learn how to coach in England.
Well, I was an amateur. You'll be considered an amateur, and you know, in the Caribbean, you always have to upskill yourself.
Correct.
So I was given an opportunity to become a professional cricket coach, and so when I got my first certificate, it allowed me now to go to Australia, to South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, you might have got a coaching certificate in the Caribbean, but it really didn't allow you to work in South Africa or Australia. When you went to England, you had the England and Wales Cricket Board badge on that certificate.
Wow.
From your junior to your senior to your advanced, could have gone even up until today. If I decide to get back into coaching, I can be able to, you know, flip up my CV and I maybe can go to South Africa, maybe go to Nepal, go to some place. So as a professional, so you always have that in your mind. But in the Caribbean, it was always about trying to upskill myself, and I learned a lot. You know, it was a whole different mindset coming out of England, especially at the Yorkshire Cricket School. In fact, while in England, England gave you an opportunity to get into other sports, because while there, I also became a netball coach, which tremendously helped me. In fact, I first learned about computer in England from the Yorkshire Cricket School. There was a course being organized, so you know you can do data analysis. And so that was one of the things that I very much liked about England. You just didn't go there for one thing. You always branched off into something else. So while you were maybe doing a major, you were there as a cricket coach, you know, somebody always was trying to get you involved into something else so that you could develop yourself and you become a rounded cricket coach. So being a professional is even harder than being a professional sportsman, because there's so much work, because your boys and girls who you're in charge of, they look up to you. And so when they see you out lying in the nighttime, you can't come as the coach and trying to instill discipline, you know, when they've seen you at the clubs and, you know, you're like, coach, I saw you out this morning. What was that? Even though you have a personal life, you still, even when you go out, you still have to be respectful, because you never know who is watching.
Yes, understood. How was the training when you went to England? Did you enjoy the time there?
Yeah, very insightful. You know, they taught you the game, you know, the rudiments, the fundamentals. They did at Yorkshire Cricket School, spent a lot of time on the technical aspect of the game, how you could develop a batsman. You know, so they broke down the batsman in cycles, even the bowling, the fast bowling. They design programs for you, you know, how you'll be able to design development programs, you know, at what age. Because a lot of times in the West Indies, as coaches, we coach everybody the same way, but there are systems. So you might be 6'5", and Colin Cannonier might be 5'2". The way how I coach Colin Cannonier, I can't coach you who's 6'5" the same way. You know, and coaching is teaching. A lot of people in the Caribbean have coaching certificates, but they can't teach. they can't demonstrate. They don't understand the fundamentals of the game. They don't understand how to teach people the game. So I have an eye for talent. Sometimes I'm commentating and I hear somebody say that somebody get a good ball. But I can go and analyze and could say to you that, listen, the batsman did not move his right foot. His defense was weak. His head position was not in line with the ball. Or I could look at the wicketkeeper and see that his left foot is behind the middle stump, so that anything that comes wide of him, or he's too upright. I mean, these are just fundamental things as a teacher that you can be able to identify and you can be able to work. And now that helps me, because as a coach, that is what I was into. Repetitions, drills for hours. When I was coaching, I had a gear bag that had him close to about maybe 900 wind balls, close to 1,000 wind balls. So just imagine, I am working on a specific drill, whether it was on drive or cover drive or sweeping, and you had to sweep a bag of wind balls in a particular area set up. You learned all of that system in England because you had to concentrate on drills. Drills was consistent because it becomes muscle memory. You have to remember his repetitions over and over.
Understood. Let me go on a quick commercial break. Before we go, if you could say your first name and your last name.
Yeah, well, my name is Vernon Springer, and I also I was told that I have to give a plug to when you're visiting St. Kitts.
Yes.
For your complete taxi and historical tour, be sure to call Joe, the Lover Taxi Man, at 1-869-661-2100. He's also on WhatsApp.
Okay, great. You have any other plugs? Well, that's one?
No, that was the only one I was given by your producer. I think.
Yeah. Okay, no.
Carrying out my orders.
No problem. I'm going to go on a break, and when we come back, you'll say it again, okay?
Sure.
We'll be right back.
Get ready for a night of gaming, glamour, and giving back. Join us for the 56th annual Las Vegas Night fundraiser on Saturday, December 6th at the Westin Frenchman's Reef. The fun kicks off at 7 p.m. and goes all the way until 2 a.m. Experience the thrill of Las Vegas Night here with an exciting casino game, live entertainment, delicious food, and prize giveaways. All for a great cause. Whether you're a high roller or a first-timer, there's something for everyone. So put on your best Vegas attire, bring your lucky charm, and get ready to roll the dice for a good cause. Tickets are available now. Don't miss your chance to be part of this spectacular evening. For more information, visit vimzia.org. That's the 56th annual Las Vegas Night fundraiser, Saturday, December 6th, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. at the Westin. See you there.
Hello, Kathy speaking. How may we help you? Yes, all of our cakes are created from scratch, allowing us to offer over 50 flavor combinations. We also have a selection of black cake, rum cake, and tarts. If you want to visit us, just go to our website, www.simplydesserts.net. The number is 443-226-0102. We serve the Maryland, D.C. area, and soon are going to ship nationwide. And again, visit www.simplydesserts.net with an S at the end. Enjoy and have a great day. 443-226-0102. 443-226-0102. Yeah!
This is Jason in Atlanta. To keep up with what's going on at home, I listen to my boy Larry Boschulte on 90.9 FM via live stream at www.cbnvirginislands.com.
Thank you so much for staying tuned to 90.9 FM. My name is Lawrence Boschulte, and my guest, if you could say your first name, your last name, and then the station plug.
All right, Vernon A. Springer.
And then the ad.
Well, if you're visiting St. Kitts, you need to be able to call for a complete taxi and historical tour. Be sure to call Joe the Lover Taxi at 1-869-661-2100.
Great. Okay. So we talked about you going to school, York's. How you pronounce that?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire in England. you came out of the school and you mentioned something earlier about going to Australia. Tell me a little bit about how that ended up that you ended into Australia after the school.
Well, it took different paths because when I came back from England on different occasions, I joined the sports department and worked for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis in the Ministry of Sports for well over 25 years. Would have met veteran coaches like the late Edgar Gilbert, the late Clem Hicks, Elvis Star Brown, worked with people like Keith Kayamba Gums, Elvis Pepe Isaac. I got very, very, very close to a colleague of mine, Noel Gishard, my bona fide friend and coach for life, my friend. Pulled along Robert Pemberton, who was into basketball, and some of the other coaches who were in the ministry as well, Jazza Buchanan, Cotwell Rogers, worked with a lot of coaches as well in Nevis. You would have had Stuart Williams, John Maynard, Carly Tuckett. So St. Kitts and Nevis, we shared a bond. But coming back from England, you grew into a system where my main focus really was about cricket. And so I spent a lot of time at the primary school level and the high school level. So the focus in England was always trying to work on the base. And so when I came back to St. Kitts and Nevis, that was something that I emphasized on strongly, which was the base, to be able to make sure that we have consistent primary school cricket being played. The only thing, we didn't have a lot of girls playing at the point in time. More of the ladies were into netball and most likely maybe track and field.
Correct. Yeah.
I can remember one name, and she's playing for the West Indies team now. And I was coaching at the Brantwell School, Jazara Claxton. At an early age, used to come out. Her teacher was Stuart Wallins, and she used to come out and play football. She used to come out and play cricket. And she had this mannerism about her, very athletic. When the other girls would not want to come and play, Jazara was involved, and coaching at the Brantwell School. So her greatness was spotted at a very early age at the Brantwell Primary School. So there were systems in place that we were very heavily concentrated on primary school cricket and also high school cricket. St. Kitts and Nevis was strong for that. We had a competition, a giant ball high school and colleges cricket competition. We had a primary school competition, which was the Sun Island Close primary school competition. It was also one time sponsored by Walls, Lukes and Record Bookshop. And then in Nevis, you'd have had TDC sponsoring the primary school competition, which is now named the late Wanaka Morton Primary School Cricket Competition, where they were playing hardball, having on their pads and, real hardball. So the youngsters in St. Kitts and Nevis grew up at an early age, being introduced into the game. Now, that competition, there was nothing for the primary school guys. They would have had to maybe wait for a period of time to get into maybe playing for the Leeward Islands or for St. Kitts and Nevis under 15 team.
Yeah.
And so during that time is when we created the St. Kitts Nevis 13 and Under Cricket Festival. We first started with Anguilla. So it was Nevis, St. Kitts, Anguilla. Cardigan Connor, who is now the sports minister in Anguilla, he was very instrumental in that. We had Trevor Shillingford and Thomas Kentich from Dominica. So we had Nevis, St. Kitts, Anguilla, Dominica. Then we had Montserrat, Lane and those guys. And then Barbados came on stream.
That's a lot of teams. Did they play in the same big Warner Park?
George Linton. Yeah, so we could say that all around St. Kitts. We played at the Gilbert Sports Complex in Donovan, Milton played small, who played test cricket. All wrong. Anyway, it was, but Warner Park really was the main venue for those games. Now that tournament ran for a period of time and would have produced a number of test players. So a lot of the players that used to play for the West Indies team, Shamar Brooks, Jason Holder, Al Mears, Craig Batwet, Kemal Roach, Barbados brought all those players there. Kyron Powell, Raheem Cornwall, Devon Thomas, you name it, Omari Banksom, Gwilla, Jamal Hamilton. All those young players would have played in the St. Kitts Nevis 13 and Under tournament. Kevin Hunt from Dominica was playing for the West Indies team. So you had a nucleus of a tournament, and that tournament, when I look back at it, most of those guys are maybe 28, 30. It takes on average 15 years to produce a world champion. So you can imagine at 9 years old, Kyron Powell was scoring 100. Devon Thomas was scoring 100 at 10 years old.
Wow.
Blake Brackett was scoring 100 at 11 years old. At that 13 and under level. That's what you talk about when it comes in terms of development. You know, where youngsters have an opportunity to, when they develop their skills with their coaches, they now formulate and get into a team and have a competition where they saw those guys at 10 years old, they were playing among their age group, 25 overs, 20 yards pitch. So it's the development. It's just like mini basketball.
With the tournament itself, that was the goal, right? To get get the youngsters dreaming to go into the West End.
And England, going to Yorkshire Cricket School gave you that structure, because everything in England is almost like a structured pathway.
Yeah.
So you have a pathway that leads from 6 to 13, and then you go from 13 to 19, or you go from 13 to 15, 15 to 19. So it was a clear pathway.
So the Yorkshire Cricket School was not only for coaching, it was also for playing.
Yeah, well, Yorkshire was one of the top county teams in England. That's where Sir Geoffrey Boycott came from.
Okay.
So it's a very strong cricketing community. If anybody following by the history of and know the history of Yorkshire were one of the top clubs in England, just like any other county. But it's a wonderful teaching place. And I always remember my tutor Ralph Middlebrook, and spent a lot of time with me. I learned a lot of things from him. Tony Bory. He had a lot of other West Indian coaches who lived in the community of Leeds as well. A good friend of mine's boy coach Howard Williams lived in England. So he had a lot. It was just easy as a West Indian. When you went to England, you went to Yorkshire, because Leeds was in the Yorkshire area, and that's where you had a whole lot of black people, especially from the Caribbean. So it was almost like home.
The weekends, especially the weekends, when you get to do the camaraderie and hang out with each other. Did any of the players and you have to forgive my ignorance in cricket because I'm not in tune in cricket as I am in other sports. This tournament that you had with the youngsters, did any of them move on to? I know you listed some names from the various islands that went to the West Indies, but did any of them decided not to play with the West Indies and played with the other places like England or Pakistan or something?
No, but nobody out of the lot who came to that. Well, Nicholas Curtin, who is the Canadian captain, he also played for Barbados during that period of time. So he would have played for Barbados and also played, is now Canada captain. I think he had, as you would say, dual citizenship. He would have played. He would have been the only person I think that I could remember off the top of my head that would have gone on to that level. That would have played for Barbados and also played for Canada.
No, I only said that because we had a basketball player, Tim Duncan, that when he went to school in the States, decided to play with the USA team instead of the USVI team. And
you could still consider it to be US.
Yeah, well, what happened? The USVI have a basketball team that plays as well in the Olympics.
Yeah, but who was going to pay the insurance bill if you're playing in the NBA?
Correct. And a lot of locals, they understand. You're exactly correct. And the exposure as well. He would have got more exposure playing with the US. Like I said, I wasn't there to make a decision for him. He made it. I don't have no regrets that he did what he did, because when they say Tim Duncan, they're going to say where he's from. So I don't worry about those type of things. But that's why I was asking you that question, if anybody had played with like England or Pakistan or some of the other bigger teams in cricket. Not to say West Indies isn't a big team, but it is not up to its glory like it used to be in the past.
Well, also who came to that tournament as well was Bermuda. And we had some young Bermudan players who would have maybe either played for Bermuda or might have played for England. But most of the Bermuda cricketers who are playing now, the Delray Rollins and the Smiths and company, they came to that tournament. The St. Kitts Nevis 13 and under tournament. So you could now see the benefits. Delray Rollins was a guy who played county cricket.
Yeah, that's a big tournament, because you name at least almost seven different islands that came to this cricket
Oh
tournament.
yeah. That was huge. That was huge. It's something that, during my lifetime, as long as I have God's given me the health and the strength, is a tournament that I really want to revive back in Antigua and Barbuda. It's something that started my discussion with through my foundation, Civic Engagement Foundation, and the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. It is something that is dear to my heart that we're going to get going, if not 2026, by 2027, in some form, shape, or the other, because I think that is the foundation. Cricket West Indies is the only cricketing nation in the world that builds from on top down, and you have to find a way. You have to bite the bullet and put some money in the base. You have to build the foundation. You can't expect to get another Brian Lara and feel somebody's just gonna just drop out of the sky.
Correct.
Or another Haley Matthews who's just gonna just come forward, and you have to put systems in place.
A lot of practice.
At the base level. Every other country, every other cricketing country in the world. If you check Brazil, you'll be amazed as to how much cricket Brazil, who is considered to be a football country, you'll be amazed as to how much cricket is being played in Brazil, especially on the women's side.
As an individual who's been in cricket majority of your life, why do you think the deterioration of cricket, back in the past, it used to be much more celebrated by the islands? Why do you think it has deteriorated?
Well, I've been involved in almost sports. Yes, cricket is dear to my heart, but I don't, people tend to just label me as cricket, and as I've seen the world through sports. I've seen the world through cricket. I've seen the world through being an administrator. I've seen the world through being a broadcaster. So I give God thanks that God has given me that talent. But coming back to your question, when you look at the cricket aspect of the side, I think it's boiled down to the administrators who have not been able to think outside of the box. And, they're still operating that you can just come and just put down a stump and say that we're going to play a cricket game. It's much more than that. The game has evolved tremendously. If you want to, when you have elite athletes, when you have somebody who makes the West Indies team, you have to have the necessary tools and mechanisms that are put in place to be able to help that elite athlete, be it cricket, football, athletics, you name it. And I don't think that the administrators have come up to speed to really understand what is required. You have women. You have to get people who understand girls to be around them. You can't get pedophiles to be around girls. And that is one of the areas which is affecting our sport, where you have people who come around the sport and don't spend time teaching whether it be boys or girls, and we are not getting the necessary professional people around the setup. So you will hear a lot of people tell you, oh, the youngsters are not interested in playing sports. But the administrators have not come up to speed to really understand that you have to get the right personnel and the professional personnel around, especially youth sports, especially around young girls, especially even around young boys. And so parents have just decided, listen, let me just keep my children at home, be it boy or girl, because there's no proper system in place to get them out. We also have a situation where we have not educated the parents enough, because you might be paying me at Vast Sports Academy, and when I go to play in a tournament, because you are one of the parents who are investing in my academy, you might think that your son is supposed to play all the time, but he might not be up to par to consistently play, and so that becomes an abuse factor. The parent curses the coach, the cricket, football, you name it. You see it happening all around. So sometimes the process, and coming back to the administrators in terms of cricket, the game has evolved. There are benefits to the game, and I listened to you, and it is a pattern in the Caribbean where everybody wants their own home. Everybody wants a swimming pool. Everybody wants a cricket facility. Everybody wants a basketball facility. Everybody wants a football facility. But the big issue is that we have no plan for maintenance. So we want all these things. But we have never thought about putting a maintenance plan in place for these things. So who do we come back to? We come back to the government. When the pool, when somebody mash up the pool, we come back to the government. The government put lights in almost every community with a glass backboard, and some mischievous person go to the communities and smash the backboard. Somebody come back to the government and say, yeah, we want that. So our club structure throughout the entire Caribbean is very weak. Our administrators are only concerned about themselves to stay in office so they can tour the world. So it's almost like a retirement plan. They're really not concerned about you or the development of the athletes, because most of the associations do not have a development plan for young people, be it boys or girls.
Correct. No, I think also a little bit of the blame when you did mention parents is if they wanted their child doing it. Like, I have my daughter playing soccer, so sometimes it's hard. I have to push her to, like you said, get out the house, go down and kick the ball for a while. It don't have to be every day, but at least Saturdays when there's a program down there with other structured children, that she goes out and plays to understand that there's a team atmosphere instead of this on the computer all the time. So she's also in tennis. I'm pushing her with that as well. The difference is soccer is free, tennis costs money. So, of course, you try to lean on the freer one, which is soccer, but it's her interest. Sometimes you might push a child, but I looked at it like with me. I'll give my example. I wish my mom had pushed me more, because I made her think that I don't want to play, and she just gave up and said, fine, I ain't sending you to junior golf. I was in golf playing well. But then after a while, you get teased. So then certain children can't handle, if you're not the best player and you get teased, you don't want to play no more. So that could be an issue as well. So it's the parents as well should be more involved in making sure not to push and too hard on a child, but to be more involved in the sense of a child going to tell you no, they don't want to do it. And if you gave up, like with me, I used to play tennis and golf, and both of them I told my mom I didn't want to play anymore, and she said fine. And I wish I stayed in both, because you could get a scholarship to a school in America quicker with those two than football, baseball, or soccer. But like I said, I'm not pushing mine too hard, but trying to push her in the sense of soccer, because soccer is a free sport here. We have a lady who comes on the show. She be on, I think the next time is the 16th of December. Carol, she talks about girls with balls, and the theme is that girls play sports as well as boys. And she gets out to try to bring in as many females to talk about how involved in sports they are.
So that's why I was telling you that the administrators, it's not everybody will represent their country. But
correct.
If you have a comprehensive plan where you can explain to somebody and you can say, listen, your daughter is 6'4", she could be a very good volleyball player, or she could be a very good basketball player. There are thousands of scouts in various sports that pass through the Caribbean, and all they're looking for, male or female, is raw talent. That is one of the reasons why the boys and girls track and field championship in Jamaica is easily one of the biggest events in the world, because scouts and coaches are looking for talented athletes. They're not looking for the person who wins. What all they just want is they've got an eye just to find a raw person, and they're going to make that person. Now, you could say what you want about the U.S. collegiate system. It provides you with an education, and it gives you an opportunity to get a degree. The University of the West Indies in the Caribbean is also now looking to implement that program to be able to make sure that, young boys and girls get an opportunity where they can stay in the Caribbean and they can go to, whether it is the University of the West Indies Five Island campus in Antigua and Barbuda, or in Barbados, or in Jamaica, or in Guyana, or in Trinidad and Tobago. So there's opportunities for people. Is it marketed? That's another question. So there needs to be a reshape, a refocus as to how we encourage young boys and girls and what are they studying. And I'll give you a reference. My daughter, Zabeda Springer, is studying law in Jamaica. And I remember saying to her, why don't you become a sports lawyer? And she was like, Daddy, a sports lawyer? I said, yeah, in 5 years' time, there are not many sports lawyers in the Caribbean. You could be dominating that whole aspect. Now, she did a piece of it, but then the program is not evolved in the Caribbean. So when she finishes in next year, she maybe is gonna have to find another 18 months or 2 years to be able to go and study sports law in the United States of America. It's like a sports agent.
Yes.
I said to her, if you study sports law, you never know, you maybe can go sports agent. You can become a female sports agent, or you can become a cricket agent. So the point what I was saying is that rather than just sending your child away to study law, you have to look and see what are the needs that are needed in the Caribbean. If I send my daughter to study sports law, well, she could become one of the top sports lawyers in the next 5 years, right? So we have to tend to kind of look at it. Administrators, we need physiotherapists, we need psychologists, we need data analysts. You see where I'm going when it comes in terms of sports? So we have to look at the avenues and also the young people who are involved in the sports. We have to start shaping their minds as to that you can make money from sports, not only playing, but in the boardroom. Because in the Caribbean, our sports administrators were very weak. And I take you back to West Indies cricket. West Indies cricket is $1 billion industry. But the people who ran West Indies cricket at the point in time, if you go way back, we came into being in 1928. But you look at the plantocracy of the people who were running the cricket in those days, and a lot of times, a lot of people sometimes don't want to go back there. Although they would have had black men playing from 1928 to 1930, 1935, 1940 on the West Indies team, they used to travel by boat. The only time the white folks who were always captain and the black folks met up was on the field of play. They didn't stay together. They were. We were just looked as the slave masters. We were the guys who were to go there to do the work. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't want to talk about those things, right? But if you follow the pathway of West Indies cricket, I'll take you back to when Clive Wright took his team to Kerry Packer in 1976, round into that area there. The then president, Jeffrey Stahlmeyer, don't know if you remember that Mighty Sparrow sang a song. He said, ban them. Yeah, just ban them. Once they're going off the Packer here, and they don't want to have any loyalty to play for West Indies cricket, just ban them. You know why? Because they were the ones who were investing in West Indies cricket. And because they felt that they were the ones who had the money and was invested in West Indies cricket, we, the black people, were almost just like slaves. So we were supposed to be just working for pittance. We want to be able to excel ourselves. Kerry Packer turned around world cricket because when he found out how much money the Australian Cricket Board was making as to how much money the West Indian cricketers were making, he said, no, that's not possible. These guys were making millions. While the West Indian cricketers who were going to Australia, they were making pittance. They weren't making anything. They were coppers. So these big boards, and West Indies Cricket Board at the point in time was never strong in the boardroom. So with all that dominance where we dominated world cricket, our players only didn't really make, thank God that they had county cricket for some of them. Or those who went off to South Africa. You remember there was a big uproar and a big outcry when Alvin Kalitran took a team down to South Africa and everybody was, oh, we should just ban them. That was the mentality of our sports administrators because they didn't feel that our players were good enough and that they should be making money. While the rest of the world players were making money, our guys were almost like begging. So the point I'm making is that if you look at the pathway of West Indies cricket from 1928 leading up, there was a point in time when, I don't know if you remember, Cricket West Indies had a logo with a tree on it. A gentleman in Australia bought the rights for the West Indies logo.
Hmm.
He was selling shirts
Hmm.
and with the West Indies logo on it, and said, well, if he sold 1,000 shirts, then the cricketers would get something. We just gave up all of our rights. We didn't understand all those things.
Did he ever give the money? No.
Then nobody, who's going to police it? Nobody know how many shirts he sold. You know, and that's just like really one example. But the point was that our administrators, I'll give you another story. I remember in St. Kitts and Nevis, our first professional athlete was Kim Collins. And so when you would travel with the track and field team, Kim would walk with his doctor, his psychologist, his masseur, his physiotherapist, because Kim is a professional athlete, got a contract with Adidas, and Kim used to just say, listen, don't worry, said to the association, don't worry about any team, I will work with my team. He would pay for his team, work with his team, and his medical team would look after the other athletes. So wherever we went, Kim Collins, our star athlete, would walk with his professional team. Now, there were times when the NOC or the Amateur Athletic Association would say, oh, well, they want Kim to run at this meet in the Caribbean. And Kim having an agent, the agent would say, well, you know, Kim is not available because he has to run in Zurich. And the authorities had this attitude where who you think he be? You ain't coming, won't come run for St. Kitts? Not understanding that you're dealing now with an elite athlete who has a schedule and has to make money. So they never came to grips as to how they were going to deal with Kim. And it's not just only in St. Kitts and Nevis that happened. That was across the board for a number of the associations. They just couldn't deal with professional athletes or elite athletes. They just thought that you were slaves. When they pick up the phone and they call you and tell you, we're selling a ticket for you to come home to play for St. Kitts or to play for Antigua, and you said, you can't talk to me, you got to talk to my agent. They got highly offended. But these are the things that you're talking about that administrators have not been able to evolve into. You know, and I'm just giving you just a nutshell of having to deal with some athletes.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Springer, my time for this program has come to an end.
We never discussed the real topic that we were supposed to be discussing.
Well, you could always come back. You know, I have no problem bringing you back. So I want to thank you so much for providing the information to me and my listening audience, and I look forward to having Andy set up another time later on down the month or next year. Not to make it sound like next year, December, but next year is only next month. So we'll work on another schedule to bring you back on as well, okay?
I really appreciate that, man.
No problem at all. So I'm going on a quick break because I have another guest coming on, and we'll be right back after these messages.